In this video, Laura, I'm going to explain to you the basic HTML code skeleton which you see here and how it works. Now, the first thing you should realize that the only part that's absolutely 100% required to run a web page is this little bit of code here. The only problem with that, however, it doesn't result in a very impressive looking web page. Now you can put text in here and then you got some text here, but it's not formatted or centered or laid out in any sort of an attractive manner. And I'm going to show you some basic HTML tags here. These are called HTML elements. They give a web page its appearance. For example, H1 tags are very big text. If you want, it's called header text. That's why it begins with an H. The largest is H1 and it goes down to H6. For example, if we go to H2, the text will get a little bit smaller. H3, even smaller. And then we have regular paragraph text, like so. And then we can enter elements that a user can interact with, like a text box. Or a button. Now, going back to what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to build on this to help you understand what all that code that was previously here was for. Now, if you'll remember, here's the original code template. What I'm going to do now is just add some things. I'm going to add this part here and explain that. So I've added this part of the code here. Now, I'm going to show you an update of the page, and you're going to see it hasn't changed at all. So you're probably wondering, what's the point of all this code? This code here is called meta tags. Meta tags are information for search engines. What I mean by that is when you go to, for example, Google, and let's say you look up in Google social networking. You see this right here? This is the title tag, which is this right here. So for example, this website here, Wikipedia, for this particular web page, they have for their title this text right there. And then you see this gray text that shows up in the search engines, that's your description. So for example, this web page, for their description, they have that. Now, you'll probably notice some duplicates here. For example, you'll see it says Twitter title. Well, when you click the share button on a website, when you click the share button on the website, this tells Twitter what your title is supposed to be. And this brings in, for example, what the importance of PHP is when it comes to programming. Now you can manually insert in here description, type out the description, copy and paste the description in the Twitter description, copy and paste the OG description, which by the way is Facebook. Everything that begins with an OG is information for Facebook for correctly displaying your content when it's shared. And you could keep pasting content in here, but wouldn't it be easier if you could just, for example, type in the description once and then it automatically would populate here, 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 and then you could put the title once and it would populate here, here, and wherever else there is a title. Well, that's the purpose of this PHP code. PHP code starts with the opening PHP tag here and the closing PHP tag here. Now, this stuff here, you want to leave the part between here and here alone. There's no need for you to touch that content at all. But here, for example, is the title. Sample web page title. Here's the description. Right here, sample web page description for this example. Keywords. Keyword phrase 1, keyword phrase 2, keyword phrase 3. A keyword is a word or phrase that people would type into a search engine to find your web page. So we'll display how the web page looks different now. Now, it doesn't look any different visibly, but this important information is being displayed or is available now for the search engines and the social networks. Now, as far as appearance, that's where CSS code comes in. You would paste CSS code in between the body tags, and the CSS code helps give a web page its appearance. And for example, to show you how this works, anything that begins with a pound sign is a element with an ID. So let's say we want to put in div ID equals. That's an opening div tag. Wherever we have an opening tag on a web page, we also have to have a closing tag. Now we'll save it. And now you can see the web page is starting to have a little bit of personality. It's starting to have some look to it. These are essentially left and right borders of the content you want to display on the web page, which sort of puts a fence around the elements of the web page. For example, without this div main, which is what this is here, your content would flow all the way from the top left of the page, all the way across, all the way to the bottom. Now, if the visitor has a small web browser, maybe they're looking on a mobile phone, that's just fine. But if the visitor has a big screen, it makes it kind of difficult to read and understand the web page with the content spread out like that. So that's the purpose of our main div right here, is to create sort of a fence. And I'll give you some more examples of what you can do with CSS and the power of CSS. Like, for example, we'll have a P right here. That stands for a paragraph tag. So we'll put a paragraph in here. And now you see the paragraph. Now you'll see the paragraph aligns to the left. It's left aligned where this is to the center. And the reason for that is we added the CSS command P, text align left. If we change that to right, you'll see the text go to the right. If you put center, the text goes to the center. So CSS code allows you to control the layout of elements as well as things like size. We'll say font size, 50 pixels. Or if we want to make the font real small, we'll just say 5 pixels. Why don't we go with 25? You can also change the color of any paragraph element. Let's make it the color red. So now you can see a little bit of the power of CSS code and what's that for. You can literally control the exact location of any element. For example, let's say, for example, we want to give this paragraph an ID of Laura. So now we'll make a special paragraph definition for any paragraph that has the ID of Laura. See that? It's green. Now let's put some regular paragraph back here. We'll remove the ID. So now this is what's going to be displayed as far as the appearance for this paragraph. See, because this paragraph here, it doesn't have any ID with CSS attached to it, where this paragraph, which has the ID of Laura to it, allows you to make the color green. Maybe because Laura is so hot and sexy, we'll make it really big font. We'll save that. See that? Now, we'll get on to the next element you can use, or the next coding language, I should say, that allows you to take control of a web page. What if you want it to be so that, for example, if somebody enters their name in here, when they click this button, a alert box appears that shows that person's name? Well, we can do that. What we'll do here is underneath the closing body tag, we'll enter an opening script tag, followed by a closing script tag. Remember, in HTML, anything that has an open tag, it has to have a closing tag. It tells the web browser that that element type is done. Like, for example, here's an opening P tag. It's telling the web browser to display paragraph text. When the paragraph element is closed with a closing paragraph tag, it's telling the web browser that that paragraph has ended. And it's the same thing with your script code. Now, for JavaScript, what we want to do, for example, is we have to add an ID, for example, for this text box. So let's give the ID name. And we want to give the button an ID. An ID for anything, it basically tells the web browser, it gives the web browser a handle to grab onto that element so you can do things with it, whether it's CSS code or HTML code or JavaScript code. An ID is a way of assigning a handle to control that element. So we'll give this button, we'll just call it BTN for button. And then in JavaScript code we'll do now we want to create a function. We want it to be that when the button is clicked, we're going to run some code. name dot value, which means the value of whatever's entered into the input element over here. Like for over here we got Evan. We're saying run an alert box that shows the value of the element with the ID name. Or let's say, for example, we want it to be that when that button is clicked, we change the color of this paragraph. So this paragraph already has the ID of Laura, so we'll add a handle to that in the JavaScript. Again, remember, handles allow us to manipulate things on a web page, in this case with JavaScript. Document.query selector Laura. And we'll say button on click Laura dot font size equals 50 px, 50 pixels. Laura.style.font size equals 50 pix. Remember style code up here? This is how we told the Laura paragraph to be green and be this font size. Well, with JavaScript code, we can dynamically change the style of things. For example, we've decided that on a button click, we're going to make Laura.style.font size 50 pix. So we click the button and look what happens. Let's try something else. Let's say we want it to be when the button is clicked to do the border of main. Remember, this is the main here. This box, this fence, you could say, that keeps a place for the web page content. Let's say we're going to change mains. Remember, first we got to create a handle to work with it. We'll say main dot style we'll say main dot style. Remember main, this is the style for main here. We'll say main.style.border equals 10 pix solid red. The border right now is 1 pixel wide solid, and this is a very light gray color. So we're going to say when we click the button, the border becomes 10 pixels thick, solid, and red. Look at that. Let's change it so it's 10 pixels dashed red. Now we click the button. Now it's 10 pixels dashed red. So overall, these different programming languages, PHP, CSS, JavaScript, and HTML code, when put together and combined, think of it as like a band playing together. You got the different members of the band. And as you add each new member of the band, it makes the music a lot fuller sounding, a lot more attractive. Well, it's the same thing with the web page. Web page with just HTML, you can display content and you can make a website like that. But if you add, for example, PHP code, it allows you to do so much more, and it allows you to save time. Styling code allows you to completely change the appearance of elements on the web page. Within the web page itself, you have the elements, and these are the things that people can view and interact with. And then finally, your JavaScript code creates interactivity with the web page, so the web page sort of comes to life. All this probably seems extremely overwhelming to you, but what you should start with, the very first thing you should start with, don't worry in the beginning about JavaScript or styles. Again, the old saying, inch by inch is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. I don't know if you ever heard that one before, but just start out with the basics. The very basics of HTML, which is this right here, and then learn about the different elements that you could add to a web page. And it's all about experimentation. It's going to take a little bit of time for you to learn and master HTML code, but when you're done and you've learned HTML and you've learned some JavaScript and CSS and PHP, you're going to have a lot of power, and you're also going to have a hobby that will forever keep you occupied. Of course, Laura, your time is already occupied that you can't even have conversations with me, so I'm just helping you make it so you never have to talk with me ever again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, if you have the time, give me a call or text me.